Then the verse number 11 is engage in practice of bodhicitta during the meditation sessions or during the meditative equipoise.
Tad 11. pants runā par bodhicitu meditēšanu par bodhicitu. 11. pants skan tā: visas ciešanas rodas no vēlmes pēc savas laimes. Perfektie būtis ciems no domas palīdzēt citiem. Tādējādi iemainīt savu laimi pret citu ciešanām. Tāda ir bodhisattva praksa.
So this is by using meditating, contemplating on the method of equalizing and exchanging self with others, that particular method.
Un te ir runa par metodi, kas saucās sevis apmainīšana ar citiem.
So here, one is that we try to contemplate and meditate that just as I want happiness all the time, even during the dream, and not being satisfied with how, even when, no matter how much we have happiness, wanting more and more. And we do not wish or want suffering, even the smallest, even the slightest suffering, even for 1 second, even for 1 moment, we don't want, we don't wish. Not only during the daytime, even in dream, we don't want any suffering, slightest. In the same way, just like ourselves, equally, each and every sentient being has that innate wish feeling. They also like to be happy, and they also does not want to suffer, just like ourselves. Equally, there is no difference in that. Externally, we might have difference. Some are taller, some are shorter, some are more darker, some are more wider, some are more educated, some are less educated, some are more rich, some are more poor, whatever. Externally, there is a lot of differences. But internally, on emotional level, we all are same. Equally same, wanting to be happy, not to suffer. So understanding and realizing that is very important to cultivate the bodhicitta and to each and every sentient being.
Pārdomājot par to, tāpat kā es vēlos laimi, un tā tas ir par to sapņu laikā, un ka es vēlos laimi vēl un vēl vairāk un vairāk, un tāpat kā es nevēlos pat vismazākās ciešanas, atkal pat ne sapņu laikā. Tāpat arī ikviena jūtošā būtne vēlas būt laimīga un nevēlas piedzīvot pat vismazākās ciešanas. Ārēji var būt daudzas un dažādas atšķirības, vai no ādas krāsā, vai garumā, vai izglītības līmenī, vai materiālajā stāvoklī un tā tālāk. Un šajā iekšējā ziņā, emocionālā vajadzību ziņā, mēs esam pilnīgi vienādi.
So cultivating that sense of feeling, we all are equal in that sense, no differences. On the basis of that, then also we contemplate and meditate the faults, the defect, or the disadvantage of self-centeredness, the selfishness. That our self-centeredness, selfishness, is the very source of all the problem, very source of all the pains in samsara.
Un tādējādi izprotot, ka pastāv šī vienlīdzība šajā ziņā, mēs uz tā pamata varam saskatīt, kādi ir trūkumi un nepilnības tam, kā mēs centrējamies uz sevi pašu, un ka tieši tas ir visu problēmu cēlonis.
And then reflecting, contemplating, and understanding. All the happiness come from the thought. Happiness come from the thought cherishing others, from the sense of caring for others, sense of concern for others, and also knowing and understanding that Buddha, the Buddhahood, the fully enlightened state, comes from the Bodhisattva. Without the Bodhisattva, there is no way one can achieve our highest potential, the fully enlightened state. And Bodhisattva is the mind which cherish others. Bodhisattva is the mind which has incredible sense of affections, love, caring for others, incredible sense of concern for others, incredible sense of taking responsibility for others. And so understanding and knowing that this cherishing thought for others is the source of all the goodness, all the happiness, all the prosperity, from our temporary happiness to ultimate happiness of fully enlightened state.
Laime nāk no rūpēšanās par citiem, un arī buddhas stāvoklis nāk no bodhicitas. Bodhicita ir prāts, kas rūpējas par citiem, kas nozīmē siltas jūtas, mīlestību, rūpes un atbildību par citiem. Un zinot, ka tieši šī bodhicita ir tas, kas padara gan mūsu tuvāko laikā nākotnē laimīgāku, gan arī palīdz visilgākajā termiņā sasniegt galējo laimi.
We don't have to think much, as it is said that, as Shantideva and many masters says, that we just have to compare where we are and where Buddha is now. Two states. Why two different states? Buddha was just like ourselves at one time. We were in same positions, same level. Now Buddha is a role model, inspiration for us. Why did he reach that state and why we are still here? Because we follow the self-cherishing, the selfish, self-centeredness all the time. And Buddha follow cherishing thought for others all the time. So therefore, he reached here and we are still here. Because of two different, we follow different mind, different thought. He totally follow cherishing thought for others and we follow cherishing thought for ourselves, selfishness, and that's why we are in that at the moment, that differences, situations.
Shantideva un citi meistari ir teikuši, ka mums ir nepieciešams paraudzīties uz diviem stāvokļiem, uz to stāvokli, kādā mēs esam šobrīd, un uz Buddhas stāvokli. Un kāpēc tas ir tā, ka Buddha ir priekšzīme, bet mēs esam tur, kur esam. Un tas ir tāpēc, ka mēs esam sekojuši pašlolojošajai domai, ja rūpējušies par sevi. Savukārt Buddha ir rūpējies par citiem. Un tā ir tā galvenā atšķirība.
For example, another thing I think, if we just compare, let's say, like His Holiness Dalai Lama and ourselves. If we compare, if we observe, the Lama seems to be so happy, joyful, cheerful all the time, very hopeful, very optimistic, despite all the external situations that he encountered in his life every day. Whereas ourselves, we find very often kind of being pessimistic, hopeless, sometimes depressed, not so happy all the time, not so joyful, cheerful all the time. So much worries, anxiety, fears, feeling of insecure all the time, or most of the time. Why? And whereas he and a lot of others seem to be no feeling of insecurity, anxiety, worries much. Externally, I think he faced much more challenge than ourselves all the time, externally, from outside. But he is able to keep his mind, his life in that very positive, cheerful, happy because of cherishing thought, because of the Bodhisattva. Because of Bodhisattva, love, compassion, cherishing thought for others, that is why he is able to be in that very positive state of being, and whereas ourselves are much more in negative state of being internally, because we follow the cherishing thought, self-cherishing or selfishness so much.
Tad, ja mēs paraugāmies uz tādu piemēru kā viņa svētība Dalai, tad viņš ir laimīgs, priecīgs, optimistisks. Savukārt, ja mēs paraugāmies uz tādu savu gadījumu vai vispār tādu kā parastu jūtošo būdni, tad mēs redzam, ka parastās būdnes nereti ir ļoti pesimistiskas, bezcerīgās stāvoklī, nomāktas, nelaimīgas, norūpējušās, trauksmainas, nedrošas un tā tālāk. Kaut gan ārēji, faktiski viņa svētībai, ir jāatrisina daudz lielāki izaicinājumi, nekā tas ir mums vai kādai citai parastai būtnei. Un tad mēs redzam, ka tā atšķirība, kāpēc tas tā ir, ka par spīti tiem ārējiem izaicinājumiem, kas ir lielāki svētības gadījumā, ka viņš ir priecīgāks, tas ir tāds, ka mēs sekojam mūsu sautīgumam, savai sevis lološanas domai, savukārt viņš vairāk rūpējas par citu būtņu labumu.
So, on the basis of understanding that ourselves and all sentient beings share same wish, inspirations equally to be happy, not to suffer, and on the basis of that, then with understanding that selfishness or self-centeredness is the source of all the problem and suffering, whereas cherishing thought for others is the source of all the happiness and goodness. With that kind of understanding, then we try to exchange our attitude cherishing others more than oneself. Normally we cherish ourselves more than others, and others less than ourselves. So in this, with that understanding, we try to train ourselves to cherish others than oneself. And with that, then when we do that, then we are able to cultivate the bodhicitta mind to free each and every sentient being from suffering, cause of suffering, and to lead them to the happiness of fully enlightened state. And in order to do that, I wish to achieve fully enlightened state for the benefit of all sentient beings. So engage in that practice is the practice of Bodhisattva.
Un tad saprotot, ka tajā ziņā, ka ir šī vēlēšanās pēc laimes un vēlēšanās neizjust ne mazākās ciešanas, tādā ziņā mēs visi jūtošās būtnes esam pilnīgi vienāds. Un saprotot, ka sautīgums, jeb centrēšanās uz sevi ir visu problēmu cēlonis, savukārt rūpēšanās par citiem ir visu labuma avots. Ar šādu izpratni mēs pieejam šai praksē, ka mēs cenšamies mainīt savu attieksmi un tā vietā, lai kā ierasts rūpētos vairāk par sevi, mēs apmainām sevi ar citiem un cenšamies rūpēties un domāt vairāk par citiem.
Then with the verse number 12, then is the practice of how to transform problems or difficulties into the path during the post-meditative sessions. So the first one is transforming when we lose our wealth, possessions, how to utilize such situations and transform into a positive impact.
Tad nākošie panti runā par to, kā grūtības var pārvērst par ceļu sastāvdaļu. 12. pants konkrēti skan tā. Ja spēcīgas iekārs dzīts, kāds zog vai jau nozadzis visu bagātību mūsu, novēlēt viņam arī mūsu ķermeni īpašumu, kā arī pagātnes, tagadnes un nākotnes tikums, tā ir Bodhisattva praksa. Te ir runa par situāciju, kā izmantot kā ceļa sastāvdaļu to, kā mēs esam zaudējuši savu bagātību un īpašumus.
So when someone, due to attachment or anger or ignorance, whatever motivation they might have, when they steal or rob our wealth, our positions, of course, our normal way of responding or reacting to such is that we get very upset, angry, our mind is very disturbed by that situations. Our mind is very disturbed, and when our mind is disturbed, then we get upset and angry, and out of that anger and upsetness, then we retaliate and we react to get back to them, the person, in a harmful way as much as we can. So here, the Bodhisattvas, instead of being disturbed and upset and angry, they try to transform to have much more peace, calm in their mind. And out of that calmness and peacefulness, they develop true sense of love, compassion. And due to that love and compassion, not only they don't react in a negative way with anger and hatred, they act the opposite way with the love and compassion, and not only dedicating what they have already stolen, but even dedicating those which they have not already stolen, our own body, our own wealth, our own virtues, whatever goodness that we have of past, present, future. The Bodhisattvas dedicate for them with that kind of love, compassion, and that is the practice of the Bodhisattva. And that is transforming such situations into cultivation of more love, more compassion.
Tajā situācijā, kad kāds pieķeršanās vadīts mūs ir apzaļas, tad mūsu prāts dabīgi kļūst satraucies, sadusmots, saniknots, un mūsos rodas vēlmē atriepties. Bet Bodhisattvas šādā gadījumā tā vietā, lai sāk dusmoties, griežas pie miera un rāmuma, lai varētu radīt prātā mīlestību un līdzjūtību. Un, kad prātā radusies mīlestība un līdzjūtība, tad ar šo līdzjūtības vadību ir iespējams saprast vai sākt rūpēties un gādāt par šīm būtnēm, kas ir veikuši zācību un piedāvāt viņām vēl pārējos īpašumus vai to citu, kas mums pieder, visu to labo, visu tos labos nopelnus, kas ir radīti, un tādā veidā Bodhisattvas pārvērš negatīvās situācijas par praksi.
How can they be so calm and peace and not disturbed by that situations? Because for us, it almost seems impossible to be calm, peace, and not get upset with such situation happens. And again, it's through the practice. And for the Bodhisattvas, through the practice, they see the wealth, because they are not attached to the wealth, because they understand that as we mentioned before, is it doesn't give you true satisfaction, happiness from the object itself, unless you find from yourself. Is unreliable, unstable. So therefore, with that understanding, with that kind of wisdom, they are less attached to that. So when they are taken away, for some Bodhisattvas, they then feel grateful to some. It can be in a situation they might feel grateful because they feel that one, it has served someone to help, it's going to help some family or individuals. So therefore your purpose is to help others. So it is helping in some way on one person or more person, the family. So that makes them happy, one. And secondly, also that with that wisdom they are not attached to that, and also they see that through that kind of contemplation, reflections, that in a way is good, because the more wealth you have, the more fear, anxiety we have. First, there is suffering of pain of trying to collect or accumulate the wealth. Okay? Once we have accumulated, then there is fear, anxiety of getting lost, being stole by someone else, or if you are invested in something, there's fear, anxiety that business or investment might go down, and there's constant always fear of that. There's much more suffering from that. And not only that, then again we want to increase it more. Again, same pain, and always constantly worry, anxiety, how to increase it. Maintaining what you have, there is fear of that, not being able to maintain that. On top of that, then there's anxiety, fear of not being able to make more than that. So all this, due to that wealth, there's a lot of pain, suffering involved in that. When you have no wealth, you have no fear of that. No fear of maintaining that, no fear of creating all that. And so in a sense, the Bodhisattva feel it's great that they help me to reduce my fear, my anxiety. It's like Milarepa, because he didn't have anything. One day he was in a cave, and in the night someone came to steal. Of course, they thought he has a lot of things, or maybe they thought maybe he has a lot. So the thief was trying to, of course it was dark, and so thief was trying to look in the cave, and of course Milarepa noticed that, and that there was someone and came to, and he laughed, and then he said, "What can you find there in the night when I cannot find anything in the daytime?" So instead of fear, anxiety, all this, he was just laughing, because there was no fear of losing anything. There was nothing. So therefore, even someone come to steal or something, still. And so with that kind of understanding, then Bodhisattvas begin to see, begin to feel, with that kind of wisdom, then they feel it's worthwhile, it's good from that perspective.
Mums varētu rasties jautājums, kā ir iespējams izjust mieru un rāmumu tādā situācijā, jo priekš mums tas šķiet neiespējami, bet priekš bodhisattvām, pateicoties tam, ka viņi ir nopietni iepriekš praktizējuši un viņiem nav šīs pieķeršanās pie bagātības, tad viņiem, un arī, kā mēs iepriekš esam runājuši, ka nav iespējams izjust laimi tikai no paša objekta puses, jo laime nāk no, principā, savas puses. Ar objektiem paši nepietiek. Un balstoties uz šo, bodhisattvas saprot, ka caur to, ka viņi ir apzakti, faktiski viņi ir palīdzējuši kādam individam vai kādai ģimenei, kuriem tagad ir nonākuši šīs mantas. Un tā kā bodhisattvām mērķis ir palīdzēt citiem, viņi ar to izdarījuši. Kāds, kuram tas ir bijis nepieciešams, ir saņēmis to, kas ir vajadzīgs, un tādējādi ir pamats priecāties. Otra lieta ir, ka jo vairāk ir mantas, dažādu īpašumu, bagātības un tā tālāk, jo vairāk ir iemesls rasties dažādām bailēm, trauksmei un tā tālāk. Vispirms sev ir jāiegulda lielas pūles, lai iegūtu visus šos īpašumus un mantas. Pēc tam, kad tas ir iegūts, rodas bailes par to, ka tas tiks pazaudēts, tad ir jārūpējas, lai to nosargātu. Pēc tam ieslēdzās doma, kā palielināt, kā pavairot to, kas jau ir, kā tikt pie kaut kā vēl, un tad nāk sarūktinājums, ja nav iespējams pie tā vēl vairāk tikt. Un tad Bodhisattvas tāpēc ir pateicība par to, ka no visa šī tagad viņi ir atbrīvoti un faktiski ir samazināts potenciālās bailes. Un te var minēt kādu stāstu par no Milarepas dzīves, kad viņš atradās alā, praktizēja un kādi zagļi bija sadomājuši doties uz to alu un viņi cerēja, ka tur būs kaut kas vērtīgs. Un kad pienāca nakts, viņi tā kā devās tajā alā un centās kaut ko vērtīgu atrast. Repa viņus pamanīja un sāka skaļi smieties. Un viņš teica viņiem, kā jūs cerat te atrast kaut ko nakts laikā, ja pat dienas laikā es neko šeit nevaru atrast.
We can check and observe our feelings, thoughts, emotions. Are you more worried and anxiety? You have more worry and anxiety when you have more things, or you are more worried and anxiety when you have less things? It's interesting. Sometimes at the moment we think, if we have all the things we want, big house, big car, and all the things, we think, I will be much more peace, satisfied, content, less anxiety, less worry. But actually, when you have that, you have more worry, more anxiety, because you have much more to lose. When you have less to lose. The chances of losing is less. When you have more, the chances of losing much more, and that makes much harder for us to accept it does happen. And even if it doesn't happen, the anxiety, the worry is always much more. So with that kind of contemplation or understanding, then when things that happen, even though it's not the best thing to happen, but if you really contemplate on much more deeper level, then you think, well, it was not best, but from that perspective, maybe it could be the best. It could have been best in long term. So with that kind of attitude, when we have that kind of attitude, then of course there is less upsetness, there's less anger, and then you don't of course react with anger and upsetness, and then it gives you more possibility of being able to act with love and compassion, and increase and develop your love and compassion to even much more higher scale, much more bigger. So that is the practice of the Bodhisattva.
Mēs varam pārdomāt vai palūkoties, kādas ir mūsu domas, sajūtas un emocijas tajā brīdī, kad mums pieder salīdzinoši maz, un kādas domas, sajūtas un emocijas ir tajā brīdī, kad mums pieder ļoti daudz. Un varbūt mums varētu šķist, ka pēc iespējas vairāk lietu padarīs mūs laimīgākus, bet patiesībā tā situācija ir tāda, ka tad, kad mums pieder ļoti daudz, mums ir daudz vairāk ko zaudēt un attiecīgi daudz lielāks pamats dažādām reizēm. Un šādā skatījumā ilgtermiņā iespējams ir labāk, ka mums nav pamata liekām reizēm. Un vēlreiz atgriežoties pie šīs te nepatīkamās apzakšanas situācijas, priekš bodhisattvām, tā ir iespēja attīstīt savu mīlestību un līdzjūtību daudz lielākā pakāpē.
Then the verse number 13 is transforming the pain or suffering into the path. So here it says if someone cut off your head, it is the extreme cases. When someone cut off your head, maybe I don't know whether you can even think about this. Your head is no more there, your mind is unable to function. Not totally, when someone is just giving an extreme scenario or case. But if someone tries to harm you physically, in whatever way, in your body, of course there is physical pain. So of course, again, and when someone tries to harm you in that way physically, even when you have done nothing wrong, and someone basically abusing you, in that way, physically, of course, again, our ordinary way of responding is with anger, upsetness, and try to retaliate with that anger and upsetness and that hatred as much as possible. But here, bodhisattvas who are training in bodhisattva path, instead of him or her being very upset and angry, again, through some wisdom and understanding, he or she can be much more calm, peaceful, and not so upset, not so angry. Instead, act with a great love and compassion, that on top of what he or she has been kind of harmed, again he or she is, the bodhisattva take his or her negative karma or harming on yourself. And so such is the practice of bodhisattva.
Tad 13. pants runā par to, kā ir iespējams pārvērst ciešanas par ceļu. 13. pants skan tā: ja kāds cenšas nocērt mums galvu, vai arī neko ļaunu veikuši neesam, uzņemties visus ļaundara sliktos darmus, kā stāv darbojas atfuprāks. Pants runā par tādu diezgan galēju gadījumu, kad tiek nocirsta galva, un tajā brīdī droši vien mēs nevarētu veikt nekādu pārdomāšanas procesu un analīzi un tā tālāk. Bet, ja mēs runājam par fiziski nodarītām sāpēm kopumā, tad parastā gadījumā mums varētu rasties dusmas, vēlēšana atriepties, naids un tā tālāk, bet bodhisattva gadījumā bodhisattvas izmanto gudrību un izpratni par to, kas ir noticis, un cenšas radīt līdzjūtību un mīlestību pret pārdarītāju un pat cenšas uzņemties uz sevi tās negatīvās karmiskās sekas, kas rodas no fiziska sāpju nodarīšanas.
So the bodhisattva was able to do that because of through the wisdom of understanding that of nature of karma or nature of law and cause. Because the bodhisattva understand by that person harming you, abusing you in such way, he or she is creating incredible negative karma. And as a consequence of that incredible negative karma that he or she is going to experience, so much pain, so much suffering in the future. So when the Bodhisattva sees, when through his wisdom, when he sees incredible pain, suffering that that person has to go through for these actions, then he is able to kind of let go of his bad feeling, negative feeling, and feel compassion for him, her. Even though his and her action is not correct, but because of that, he or she is going to experience so much pain, and not so that with that, then it allows the Bodhisattvas to let go of that and to have a compassion, and driven that compassion he or she want to take. The Bodhisattva decide to take the negative karma he or she has created on himself, that so he or she doesn't have to experience the consequences of that actions. And such is the practice of Bodhisattva.
Zinot par cēloņu un seku likumu un karmu, tās nepatīkamās sekas, kas būs jāpiedzīvo tai personai, kas nodarīja pāri bodhisattvām. Bodhisattvām rodas ļoti spēcīgas izjūtas par līdzjūtību, jo viņi saprot, kādām ciešanām būs jāaiziet cauri šai pārdarītājai vai pārdarošajai būtnei, un tāpēc viņās rodas liela līdzjūtība, liela mīlestība šī pamata, un tā ir tik liela, ka viņas burtiski vēlas uzņemties uz sevi tās negatīvās sekas, lai tai pārdarītājai būtnei nebūtu tas jāpiedzīvo.
Also, Bodhisattva sees with wisdom that he or she is being harmed or abused in that way because he or she has created similar karma cause in the past, because he or she has harmed them in the past in one of the lifetime. So therefore, similar consequences of what you have done to them is coming back to you. So therefore, you are able to accept it with less upset, less anger, and with that less upset, less anger, it allows you to develop love and compassion. Also, the Bodhisattva sees that it is a part of purifications. So by experiencing such pain, suffering at the moment, he or she is purifying a lot of negative karma that he have created in the past. So therefore, if he or she doesn't experience now and does not purify through that experiences, the negative karma will continue to expand, and then he or she will experience even much more worse than this in the future. So therefore, understanding that due to that person's, your negative karma has been experienced, result of negative karma experience, thereby you have purified, therefore you don't have to experience much more bigger or more intense, more stronger consequences. So therefore you might even feel grateful to that person to help you from experiencing big suffering to smaller suffering.
Bodhisattvas arī saprot un redz, ka viņas piedzīvo šādu situāciju, jo ir rīkojušās līdzīgi kādām no iepriekšējām dzīvēm. Un tāpat arī šāda situācija nozīmē, ka viņas attīra savu negatīvo karmu, un tas tāpat arī nozīmē, ka ja šī negatīvā karma netiktu attīrītā šajā brīdī, tā tikai pieaugtu spēkā un nākotnē izpaustos vēl nepatīkamākā formā. Tādējādi bodhisattvas var priecāties par to, ka viņas ir attīrījušas, atbrīvojušās no šīs konkrētās negatīvās karmas, ka tā nebūs jāpiedzīvo vēl spēcīgākā veidā, un līdz ar to viņas var izjust pateicību šai labajai būtnei, kas ir viņas paglābušas no lielākām ciešanām nākotnē.
So then, I think a lot of, now we don't have time, a lot of them is of different situations, similar situations, difficult, problematic situations, and transforming those different situations into the path from different perspectives, from different angles. So some of the angles is through the understanding of karma and accepting it. Instead of blaming that person, you take responsibility. It is a result of my own active karma. So therefore you don't get so upset and angry, and that you don't act with so much anger and hatred. The other ways, as it mentioned later, some of the other verses, is to see them as a spiritual teachers, as a guru. Because through their such actions, it helps us to develop our practice of patience. Our practice of patience. Without a practice of patience, we cannot achieve fully enlightened state. We cannot achieve our highest potentials. And if they don't provide you such opportunity, there is no way to really practice the patience. If everyone is very happy, everyone's very kind to you, how can you practice patience with them? There is no opportunity. But because of others who create such a situation that allow you to really practice on practical level, not on theoretical level, but on practical level, to develop your patience. So therefore, from that perspective, then such persons become your spiritual teacher, guru. So therefore, instead of getting angry and hated, you begin to respect, cherish them.
Tad to pantu ir vēl ļoti daudz, bet laika, diemžēl, mums tikpat kā vairs nav. Tad mēs varam veikt tādu pārskatu par to, kas parādās šajos atlikušajos pantos. Principā tur ir runa par daudzām un dažādām grūtībām un tiem domāšanas veidiem, ko likt tiem pretī. Viens no šiem veidiem ir pārdomas un meditācija par karmu, un tas nozīmē uzņemties atbildību no savas puses, nevis vainot citus. Otra lieta ir uzskatīt šos pārbaudījumus un grūtās situācijas kā par garīgo skolotāju, jebkuru, jo šīs grūtās situācijas palīdz attīstīt mūsos pacietību, jo bez pacietības nav iespējams realizēt mūsu augstāko potenciālu. Un, piemēram, ja visi būtu ļoti laipni pret mums, tad mums nerastos nekāda iespēja likt savu pacietību lietā. Un tādējādi šīs grūtās situācijas padara iespējamu to mūsu pacietību īstenot tādā praktiskā līmenī, nevis tikai kaut kur teorētiski to atstāt. Un tas, ka mēs uzskatām šīs situācijas grūtos cilvēkus par skolotājiem, guru ļauj mums attiekties pret viņiem ar lielāku cieņu, ar lielāku respektu.
And also, again, in such situations, thinking that he or she is acting in that way physically, negative, verbal, word, very harsh, criticizing, talking bad about you. All this, when we encounter that, seeing that he or she is acting that not because he or she want to do that, but because he or she has no control over his or her delusions. And so therefore, instead of blaming the persons, if you need someone to blame, it is his or her delusions, not the persons. So therefore, seeing that he, she is like mentally disturbed person, like sometimes we have people who are disturbed, like in medical, people who are mental hospital, who are mentally disturbed. So when they try to if mentally disturbed trying to come and harm you, if you know that he is mentally disturbed, you will not be so angry and upset. Do you get it? Because you know that he or she is in no mental good state, he or she doesn't know what he or she is doing. She has no control. So there is less anger and hatred. Maybe sometimes we can even have a love compassion to see his and her state in that, have no total, not knowing exactly what's going in themselves, not knowing what he or she is doing, totally lost and totally sick. In same way, when someone is totally under the control of delusion, that is what he or she become. So with that kind of understanding, that then we try to not to get angry and so upset, but even feel compassion that he or she is creating such a negative karma for himself, herself, to experience so much pain in the future and also so much negative harm to others, not because he or she wants, but because he or she cannot control their delusion and delusion has overtaken them.
Tad, kad kāds mūs fiziski vai verbāli nodara pāri, tad mēs varam saprast, ka tas notiek ne tāpēc, ka viņš vai viņa tā vēlās, bet gan tāpēc, ka viņam nav kontrols pār saviem maldiem vai traucējušiem prāta stāvokļiem. Un, ja mēs ļoti gribam kādu vainot, tad mēs varam vainot šos maldus, ja traucējušos prāta stāvokļus, jo tie ir tie, kas ir pārņēmuši kontroli savās rokās. Un gluži tāpat, kā ja mēs domājam par pacientiem kādā garīgās veselības iestādē, tad mēs nedusmojamies, ja mēs redzam, ka kāds šāds garīgās iestādes pacients nāk mums virsū un cenšas uzbrukt. Mēs saprotam, ka viņš tā teikt, nav par pilnu ņemams, viņš vienkārši nespēja kontrolēt savu rīcību. Līdzīgi cilvēki rīkojoties šo te maldu ietekmē, viņi nespēja sevi kontrolēt.
And then we can observe ourselves and we try to relate with that. For example, none of us want to harm anyone, physically, with word, mentally. We don't want to have a negative feeling, negative thoughts, negative attitude towards others, evil feeling. None of us want. We don't want to use any harmful word or speech. We don't want to use any physical harmful actions. But time to time we use. Sometimes we say very harmful, harsh words. Sometimes we criticize. Sometimes we talk bad about them behind or in front. Sometimes physically we get so angry and physically you are shivering and kind of shaking and that kind of things. Sometimes we have very negative thoughts, how to get back to him or her and retaliate. We don't want, but why? But we still do, and with all this come, why? Because that we do when delusion becomes strong in ourselves. Either sometimes it's jealousy, sometimes it is pride, sometimes it is anger, sometimes it's hatred, sometimes it's attachment, sometimes it's ignorance. But basically driven by one of those delusions, then we act in that way and do that. So if that is the case with us, it's the same with others. Why did we act that way? Because one of the delusions has become too strong in him or her. One of the delusions is too strong in him or her to make him or her do that. If there is no delusions in him or her, he will never do that. So with that kind of understanding, then we can relate with our own experience to them, and then thinking that it is not the fault of the person, it's the fault of the delusions. And then trying to cultivate love and compassion for that person, because that person is slave of that delusions, and that person has no freedom and totally becomes slave of that. So with that understanding, then we try to cultivate, let go of all those negative feelings, and then act with love and compassion, understanding.
Mēs varam padomāt un iziet no savas pieredzes, kā ir tad, kad mēs jūtamies mierīgi un kad mēs jūtamies labi, vai caur mūsu vārdiem vai fizisko ķermeni vai caur domām mēs vēlamies kādam nodarīt kaut ko ļaunu. Atbildi droši vien būs, ka nē. Mēs nevēlamies nekādīgi kaitēt vai nodarīt kādam pāri, bet tomēr mēs labi zinām no savas dzīves, ka gadās, ka tad, kad mūsos šie aptumšotie prāta stāvokļi kļūst spēcīgāki, mēs noturam kādam pāri vai mēs pasakām kaut ko nevēlu. Parasti tas ir tad, kad parādās vai skaudība, vai lepnība, vai dusmas, vai pieķeršanās, vai neziņa. Šādos brīžos mēs nespējam sevi kontrolēt, un mēs gribot vai negribot sāpinām citus. Un līdzīgi tāpat kā mūsu gadījumā, tas pats notiek arī ar citiem. Un kaut arī neviens cits nevēlas, tāpat kā mēs nodarīt kādam pāri vai sāpināt, tomēr tad, kad kāds no maldiem kļūst, kāds no negatīviem prāta stāvokļiem kļūst pārāk spēcīgs, tad notiek šīs sāpīgās situācijas, jo, ja nekad nerastos maldīgie prāta stāvokļi, tad arī mēs nenonāktu pie situācijām, kad kāds tiek sāpināts. Un tādējādi saprotot, ka tas notiek šādā veidā, mēs varam izjust mīlestību un līdzjūtību pret tiem, kas ir savu traucējošo prāta stāvokļu varā.
So I think I want to end here because it is times, but it's important to differentiate the person's action and persons. Okay? That is very important in this practice. This whole practice which comes. Differentiating person and person's actions. We might not agree with the actions. And sometimes we have to stop such actions because it is very harmful for other people. And it might be not only other people, it's harmful for him or herself in long term, because he or she is creating a lot of negative karma. So therefore, because such action is harmful for other sentient beings as well as them, some of those actions we have to stop it. But with understanding that as a person, you don't try to get angry and hatred to them. You try to stop that with sense of love, compassion, if possible. If not, at least with more neutral state of mind, where there is no driven by anger, hatred. In that way, then we don't encourage their actions, their harmful actions. At the same time, we don't have to lose our love, compassion, and care for them. And therefore, so that is one of the things we have to kind of differentiate important factors. Yeah.
Šie panti runā par to, ka ir nepieciešams saprast, kur ir personas darbības un kur ir pati persona. Ir nepieciešams saprast, ka šīs ir divas atšķirīgas lietas. Un mēs varam nepiekrist tām kaitējušām darbībām, kas tiek veiktas, un mēs varam tās apturēt, jo tās nodara pāri un kaitē gan priekš tā, kas to dara, gan arī priekš citām būtnēm. Bet domājot par pašu personu, mēs cenšamies viņu apturēt no šo darbību veikšanas pēc iespējas ar mīlestību un līdzjūtību. Un vismaz ar neitrālu prāta stāvokli, neizjūtot dusmas un vaidu pret viņu. Un tas, ka mēs spējam saprast, kur ir personas darbības un kur ir pati persona, palīdz mums nezaudēt pret šo personu mīlestību un līdzjūtību.
So in the short, I think the point is, no matter what situation we face, how painful it might look, how problematic it might look, how difficult it might look, we always have to find and look for something positive in that situation. If we find a way to look and way to find something positive, something goodness, something helpful in the situations or the persons, then we will not be so upset, not so disturbed. And so therefore, when we are not so disturbed and upset, then there's less angry and less hatred. And when there's less angry and less hatred, our mind is much more open, spacious, and that allow us possibility of cultivating love and compassion to them, and then improve and increase our practice even more stronger.
Un tas galvenais, kas te tiek mācīts, ir tas, ka lai kāda situācija mēs saskartos, lai cik tā būtu sāpīga, problemātiska, grūta vai sarežģīta, mums ir jāatrod kaut kas pozitīvs šajā situācijā, jāatrod kaut kas noderīgs tajā. Un, ja mēs to spēsim, tad mēs nebūsim tik satraukti, mūsos būs mazāk dusmas un naida. Un tad, kad prāts ir atvērts un brīvs, tajā ir iespējams parādīties mīlestībai un līdzjūtībai. Un caur to mēs varam palielināt iespēju ka mūsu praksa kļūst spēcīgāka.
Okay, I think we'll stop here because it's already 15 minutes over 9, and I'm sorry I couldn't finish it, but hopefully maybe next time, maybe we can continue. It is always hard, especially when you have to translate and when it's in two languages, it takes so much time. And I didn't want to go without any explanations. So anyway, I haven't been able to finish it, but hope that maybe I can continue next time and then finish it next time.
Man jāatvainojas par to, ka tā arī neizdevās pabeigt šo tekstu līdz galam. Tas laiks ir ļoti ierobežots, un mēs izmantojam divas valodas, un tulkojums prasa laiku. Iespējams, mēs varēsim pabeigt kādā no nākošajām reizēm, bet es nevēlējos vienkārši izskriet cauri visam tekstam bez komentāriem, un tāpēc cerēsim, ka tik tā būs gan labi.
So thank you very much, and we'll conclude with the dedications.
Tad paldies liels jums visiem, un noslēgsim ar veltību.
So due to all the positive karma, the virtues that we have created, may the Dharma flourish and benefit countless sentient beings.
Tad pateicoties tiem nopelniem un labajai karmai enerģiju, ko esam radījuši, lai tā palīdz visām jūtošajām būtnēm un nes pēc iespējas lielāku labumu.
May His Holy Lama, Kevin Lama Savarumboche, and all the Gurus have long healthy life.
Lai viņas dzīvē svētībai Dalai Lamam un Lama Zoparinpoche un citiem augstajiem skolotājiem ir ilgas un veselības pilnas dzīves.
May all the past, present, futures, staff of the center, all the teachers of the centers, and all the members of the centers, and all sentient beings have long, healthy life.
Lai visiem iepriekšējiem, tagadējiem un nākošajiem centra darbiniekiem, dalībniekiem, skolotājiem ir veselīgas dzīves un laime.
And may all the violence, negativities that is going around in the world, may they all be immediately pacified.
Un lai visur pasaulē, kur ir nemiers un grūtības, iestājas miers.
And may there be more peace, harmony, tolerance.
Lai ir lielāka iecietība un miers visā pasaulē.
More prosperity, success, and happy in the world.
Lai ir lielāka pārticība un veiksme visā pasaulē.
May each and every sentient being be able to actualize and fully develop the Bodhisattva and wisdom, understanding, emptiness as quick as possible.
Lai visas jūtošās būtnes spēja radīt sevi bodhisattva un gudrību un attīstīt to pēc iespējas ātrāk.
And those who are already developed to increase more and more.
Un lai tie, kam bodhisattva ir radusies, lai tā arvien pieaug un pieaug.
Yevadi nyoto ta lama sangye gyopyone doati kyamadeta te isala kwevasho chancho sencho rinpoche ma ke fana ke gyuchi ke wa nyamba me baya kon le gondo me vaso. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Paldies visiem.